आप chronology समझिए. That's something the opposition has been claiming. Temple done. UCC just in one state, but done. CAA done. So how much can these acts promised by the BJP in their manifesto really impact the votes? For the BJP and the opposition, let's look at some states where protests have unfolded or are likely to. West Bengal, where Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has put a defiant resistance, has 42 seats for Lok Sabha. Tamil Nadu, where Chief Minister Stalin has said CAA will not be implemented, has 39 seats for Lok Sabha. Kerala, that is already seeing the left and Congress protest, and Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan has asserted that CAA will not be implemented, has 20 seats in the Lok Sabha. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, who launched the latest attack against CAA, alleging they will take away our jobs. Ours here is his reference to those already living in Delhi, has 7 Lok Sabha seats. Assam has 14, is ruled by the BJP, but is a very sensitive zone when it comes to the CAA, particularly when seen along with NPR and NRC, both stand postponed for now. The opposition has already called CAA Delhi's attack on Assam, as CAA seemed to have redrawn the ethnicity fault lines. The debate here has largely been about outsiders versus insiders and along several ethnic fault lines. The way CAA will play out in the Northeast is extremely different. It's very sensitive. But what could the vote impact really be? Meanwhile, over in Uttarakhand, they are making history by becoming the first state in independent India to implement the Uniform Civil Code. President Murmu just gave the thumbs up for it to become a law, and it's a pretty big deal. Well, what really are the big takeaways of the UCC, if we could look at it? Think couples living together needing to register their status within a month or else face a slap on the wrist with a jail term or a hefty fine. Plus, it's putting an end to practices like polygamy and polyandry. Well, that's just one part of it. And then you have about equal inheritance rights. That's been always something that's been on the cards. That's something that BJP has already been talking about. Minimum age of marriage, of course, still remains the same. No legal validity for same-sex marriage. Registration, as I said, being made compulsory. Mother can also claim share in deceased child's property, and several such aspects. In July 2023, Prime Minister Modi himself had pitched UCC with his famous dialogue that said Muslims were being misled and instigated by political parties pursuing vote bank politics. How can there be one law for one member of a family and another law for another member of the same family? Remember, these were his remarks that were quoted a lot. How can a family run then? How can a country run with such a dual system? Mr. Modi said this while addressing the BJP workers in 10 lakh booths in the country via video conferencing. The Prime Minister accused the opposition, the political parties in the opposition, of indulging in vote bank politics by opposing the UCC. Uttarakhand has only 5 Lok Sabha seats. But the impact of this is going to be seen beyond, or is it? We'll ask our panelists as we try and understand what are the underpinnings, what are the underlyings, what is happening on the ground, what are they expecting with these things being put out. Pradeep Mahaur, he's a BJP leader. Tushar Gupta, a political analyst. Tehseen Poonawalla, a political analyst, as well as Kapil Madan. Thank you very much, all 4 of you, for joining us. So let me just come across to Tehseen Poonawalla first. Tehseen, how do you look at what's been happening? Okay, let's just start with the latest of the CAA. If you look at the states where protests are unfolding, where protests are likely to unfold, of course, what some of the most challenging terrain is going to be the Northeast. And the issue there is very different to say how it's being looked in the South. The opposition that is coming from the south of India is very, very different in nature from what's going to be witnessed or is being witnessed in the Northeast. Now, how do you look at this from the prism of what's expected with the votes?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. At the onset, good evening to you and all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. 2 things. Let's talk about CA, because that's what you brought up, and I've challenged the CA in the Honorable Supreme Court. The CA has only been brought in to try and polarize the issue, try and make it a Hindu-Muslim issue, which it isn't, try and create doubts in the mind of Muslim citizens and Hindu citizens, thereby benefiting the BJP and also right wing parties on the Islamic side, like the OAC party. For starters, CA has nothing to do with Indian Muslims. Let's accept that. So, why the protests? The Northeast, particularly Assam, the protests are different because CA comes across on the Assam Accord, which has got a constitutional status, which the people of Assam take extremely seriously. It was one of the guarantees this great country gave the people of Assam, and there was the 71 war for the Assam Accord to come in the 80s as a cutoff date. Therefore, there is something that had logic out there. Now, why is CA being challenged by me in the Honorable Supreme Court? Three or four things. What is this cutoff date of 31st December 2014? It's a vague, arbitrary date. It has no basis. Any law must have basis in a date. For example, the Assam Accord, the last cutoff date was 71 because of the 71 war, Indo-Pak war that resulted in the formation of Bangladesh. So there should be a logic. Now, number two, the CA is actually anti-Hindu. Imagine a Rohingya Hindu refugee from Myanmar coming into India. He or she won't get expedited citizenship, but a Hindu coming in from Afghanistan gets it. So it's prima facie against Hindus. What about an atheist like me who's persecuted, religiously persecuted in some of the neighboring countries? They don't get citizenship expedited, but somebody who comes in from Afghanistan or Pakistan get in. Now, why only Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh? There has to be a logic to why countries are selected. Why not Sri Lankan Tamilian Hindus who are persecuted? Or as I said, Rohingya Hindus from Myanmar. The answer to that is, oh, because these countries are a part of India, but Afghanistan wasn't a part of India. Myanmar was. Then the answer comes in, oh, but these are Islamic countries. So why not Maldives, which is an Islamic country and shares a maritime border with India? No answer to that. It's a vague law trying to bring in discrepancy, trying to create a Hindu-Muslim divide. Actually, this law is anti-constitution because Article 14 of our constitution says very clearly, all people will be treated equally. That includes refugees. You cannot discriminate between refugees themselves. It does not allow, say, for example, a Jew refugee to come in, a Parsi refugee to come in to expedite. And last but not the least, if anyone's facing persecution, it is right now the Hindus in Afghanistan after Taliban's come in. This cutoff date is so vague. And you have you have the media covering some lady who's not even religiously persecuted and has come into India to get married to her boyfriend. They're covering her that CA is coming, which makes absolutely no sense. So the BJP is actually using this issue to polarize, making no logical or legal sense or has no basis in constitutionality. And I'm confident I will win in Supreme Court. It'll be struck down.
Pradeep, Mahaur, you've heard Tehseen Poonawalla speak. I'm sure you've heard Chief Minister speak as well. Now, even as this opposition unfolds, and if we have the visuals on air, look at what's happening in Kerala. Look at the number of protests that have already happening on the road, on the streets, whether it is the left or the Congress. Look at what's unfolding in West Bengal and Delhi. Look at the way the chief ministers, including what's happening in Tamil Nadu, are opposing this whole thing. From, like Tehseen said, from being criticized for being polarizing, from being criticized of looking and trying to spin narratives, particularly with what's happening in the Northeast. What advantage? I mean, these were all promises by the BJP. I mean, all of them have been promises in the BJP manifesto. But what's the gains that the party is looking at?
Everything is not just for the gains or political motives, I mean, as the people are making it to be. The objective is just very, very simple. The people who have migrated to India because of the reason, because they were not properly treated, because all three nations, I mean, this was a division of three nations. In fact, two nations, later on it was three nations, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India. And even people from Afghanistan, if they are migrated, because all three are Islamic states, right? So if people are migrating to India from all these Islamic states because of some or the issue, and issue is very, very clear to us. Issue is that when the division happened, there was 22% population. Now that population has shrunk to 3%. Where are these people? Are they all vanished in the ocean? No, there is some problem. So when these people, wait a minute, when these people migrated to India, this is a humanitarian demand that they should be given citizenship because Hindus, Sikhs, this Christians and Persians, they have only one place, that is India, where they can reside peacefully. As simple as that. What it has to do with Indian Muslims? Why are they protesting? In fact, what is happening is If you ask these people, why are you protesting? They do
No,
not
no,
have a
no, no,
single
no, no,
reason.
Pradeep Mahaur,
Because
very,
they
very
are being...
important distinction here. No, Pradeep Mahaur, what do you mean by what's happened to Indian Muslims? I am sorry, it's not only the Indian Muslims who are protesting. Let me correct you on that. It's not the Indian Muslims who are protesting alone. There are people from across religions who are protesting and across political spectrums. It is not the Indian Muslim alone who is protesting. Let's just stick to facts on that at least.
No.
But
What I'm
moving
saying
on to
is...
Mr. Tushar Gupta, if I can... No, you said it very clearly. I heard that statement very clearly. That's why I had to come in and say that also very clearly. But let me just get in other panelists and I will return to you as well. Tushar Gupta, Tehseen, I'll just come back to you. Let me get the introductory remarks from others as well. Okay, let me just go across to Tushar Gupta. Tushar, so while they are saying that this is about refugees who need to get the protection in India, persecuted minorities from countries that they have claimed, they have selected on whatever basis they have. There are objections to that emerging. But does this spin narratives even in places in India? Look at what's the inherent issue in Assam. Aren't Bengalis seen as outsiders? But that's around Assam versus Bengal. It's never been a religious part. Now, doesn't a CAA Act, the way it is being brought in, the narrative spin from ethnicity to religion, as is being claimed by several in opposition? So it then changes something as Assam versus Bengali to something that may be with roots to Bangladeshis and however it may be, to something that then changes or spins into religion. How would you respond to this from the opposition?
No, absolutely not. I think the opposition is in a hyperbole. It's cooking up conspiracy theories to justify their inability to understand the need for CAA. Tehseen was saying, why not Myanmar, why not Maldives? I have a simple question to ask to any critic of the CAA. On what basis was the partition of 1947 done? Why was there an East Pakistan and a West Pakistan? Why did it happen? Why was Pakistan created? On what lines? On what basis? What was the Liaquat-Nehru Pact all about? Was it honored by Pakistan and what now we call Bangladesh? And of course, whatever's going on is Afghanistan is for everyone to see. Forget the Hindus for a moment, Sneha. Do you know about the Ramu violence in 2012 in Bangladesh when the Buddhists were under attack from a mob of around, how many hundreds of people on the accusation of blasphemy? Forget the Hindus. Do you know what's going on with the Sikhs in Afghanistan? What happened to those old 2,000-year-old Buddha statues that were blown up by the Taliban? We are just focused on Hindus so much, and then we complained, oh, the BJP is trying to polarize the issue. Don't you see what's happening with the Christians in Pakistan? How there was an angry mob of 2,500 people just in August 23, which on the accusation of blasphemy, burned down churches. What happened to the Parsis of Karachi? Why are they just few in number? Of 2015 reports, Sneha, from a Pakistani newspaper says there are just around 1,200 of them left in Karachi, where they used to be. The first mayor of Karachi was a Parsi, and today the Parsis are nowhere to be seen. We all see what happens to the Sikhs' daughters. They have kidnapped, raped, forcefully converted, and married off. Forget the Hindus. What about the other communities? No one talks about it. The opposition doesn't talk about it. What pains me, Sneha, is what the Delhi chief minister today said. These are refugees. These are living in Delhi in the area called Majnu Ka Tila in North Delhi. You must be aware about it. He's comparing them to robbers, to rapists, to luteras and what not. I can understand he doesn't have a problem with the Rohingya Muslims who can also be seen in Delhi through illegal immigration, but he has a problem with these refugees who have been religiously persecuted. I'm not saying that there is no, religious persecution happening in other countries, but look at what's going on in Pakistan and Bangladesh. Congress should remember what the Nehru-Liaquat Pact was all about.
But that's the whole
they don't
point.
Want to talk about it.
And that's something that Tehseen Poonawalla is also mentioning, and other oppositions have also been mentioning, that why select few countries, leave out few neighboring countries, might as well just increase the ambit of anything. Another thing that Shashi Tharoor...
On what basis was Pakistan created? On the lines of religion.
I need to come in.
Also, as Shashi Tharoor mentioned, one of the things that he has said in his point, I will.
I need to come in.
Let me get in the introductory remarks. Kapil Madan, how do you look at this? I will come back to you next, Tehseen Poonawalla. Kapil Madan, if you can give your introductory remarks, how do you respond to what Tushar Gupta is saying? One of the things that Shashi Tharoor also raised was, why mention any religion? Of course, Tushar Gupta is saying, look at the background of how things have unfolded. That's what the government is also saying. There are also citizenships that already started. The procedure has started. But how do you look at this, Kapil Madan?
So, Sneha, I would, first like to quote our Constitution of India, and I would, say it unequivocally that I support what Tehseen is saying. If you look at Article 19, there are certain rights which are available to only the citizens, like Article 19 of the Constitution of India, and Article 14, which promises equality, for everyone before the law. That right is not limited to the citizen. That right is for every person. So the fact remains, if someone who is prosecuted, maybe on the basis of his religion or for any other reason, once he is, under the Indian Constitution, India under, in the Indian territory, then you will have to deal him, equally. You can't simply say that I will deal a particular community differently and I will deal, with a particular community differently. That's the legal aspect of it. And I'm quite sure, I agree with Tehseen that, this law, when this will be tested at the anvil of Article 14, this law will be struck down. I have no doubts in saying that. Now, my second point is that now look at the scheme of, things which are, happening. And what perplexes me is that 2019, you talk about CAA, you pass the act. Now, it took you almost 5 years to pass the rules. I mean, if you are really genuinely concerned about, people who are being persecuted in, in a different country, then what made you wait for 5 long years? Were you sleeping? Or, or if we were to believe the, narration which, Tushar is saying, we are, we waited. We know that they are being persecuted, but we'll wait for the elections because the incumbent government wants to, take a political mileage out of it. This can't be the intent. This can't be our response to a situation. So my point here is that I have no doubts in saying that the government wants to draw a political mileage out of it, and I also agree with Tehseen that this law is unlikely to affect our Indian Muslims here. But at the same time,
what's the political mileage?
Yes, at the same time, they want to play this to the political theater, and they want to get political mileage out of it.
Okay. Tushar Gupta, you're raising your hands, but I have to go to Tehseen Poonawalla first.
So
Tehseen, you were raising your hands before.
There's 2 points that Tushar.
Sneha, one fact check. Article 19 is not applicable to the foreigners. Kapil Madan is claiming Article 19 is applicable to the foreigners.
Tushar, let me go to Tehseen. Tushar, let me go to Tehseen. Tushar, let me go to Tehseen. Tushar, let me go to Tehseen.
Let me clarify. Tushar is my good friend. Let me clarify. I said Article 19 is available to citizens. Article 14 is available to everyone.
All right, you also made your point. Tehseen, so while we are talking about the CAA, and even Kapil Madan said right now, there's going to be political advantage. They are playing for the votes. What are they playing to? What is this being ascribed to? What's the vote bank that they're looking at? I mean, these are manifesto promises, so obviously there's something to it. There's Jairam Ramesh also who put this out, saying 4 years, 4.5 years, why just days before the election date is supposed to be announced that you're coming out with this law? What were you doing?
Well, let me tell you something even more funny than that. For 4.5 years, Kapil is right that 4.5 years they took to frame the rules. So they didn't really care about the Hindu refugees who've come into India. Do you know Article 6 of the Indian Constitution allows the Indian government to give citizenship to any person born in undivided India post 1947. Now, waiting period for that is 11 years. What is the cutoff date for CA? 2014. We are in 2024. So in any case, next year, these citizens would have got it. Do you see how this government is fooling everybody? They would have anyways got it. You don't need the CA because in any case, after not framing the rules for 4 years, 4.5 years, the citizens who have come in, these persecuted refugees who have come in, would have got the citizenship next year by law. There was no need to frame these rules. The reason that they're doing it is because they're trying to polarize it into a Hindu-Muslim issue. Now, there are two very pertinent things. One, Tushar said, look, India and Pakistan were divided on religious lines. That's true. But that division was in unified India. That didn't involve Afghanistan. How did Afghanistan come into this picture? Now then Tushar says, look at what's happening in Afghanistan right now. Absolutely correct. I support him. I think refugees from Afghanistan must get citizenship in India. But the cutoff date is an arbitrary 31st December 2014. So the Taliban takeover is not even accepted out there, is not even a contention in this CAA issue. Then our next door neighbor, Myanmar, where Hindu refugees have come in via Rohingyas, who are being persecuted, they are not being counted in. And you've left out Islamic countries, which is Maldives, which is our neighbor and our maritime neighbor. So you've left that out, where again Hindus are persecuted. This, all in all, is a vague law. Now, both the opposition, the OAC group and the BJP, trying to make it a Hindu-Muslim issue, wants to polarize it to take it away from the centrist issue. What is the centrist issue? The government of India has a right to give citizenship to who it deems fit. That is the sovereign right of the union government. It can frame rules. The constitution already gives it the power. But the constitutional power cannot be against the basic structure of the constitution that gives equality before law to everybody. Everybody has rightly said on the show, even by Kapil, irrespective of religion, region, or citizenship. That is the basic structure. They are violating that, and that's what's being challenged.
Tehseen, who stands to benefit? Who stands to benefit? If you're questioning the timing,
BJP.
Who stands to benefit? How?
BJP and OAC. BJP and OAC. OAC will say Muslims are in trouble, Muslim citizenship will go away, which won't. BJP will say we are trying to give Hindus Hindu refugee citizenship, and the Muslims are opposing it. This polarization is going to tear apart the country at a time of elections. So OAC and extremist right-wing parties and the BJP, which is the extremely right-wing party on the other side, will benefit from it.
But if you are saying that this is the polarization that the BJP is looking at,
yes,
Indian voters
and therefore
are
I
very
keep
smart.
saying
They have toppled governments unexpectedly, time and again.
Yes, the BJP is doing this to polarize it. Otherwise, if it cared for those refugees who are in India, who are suffering, who I have taken blankets for and food, they would have given them citizenship. The government has explicit power under Article 6 of the Constitution to give them citizenship. Expedite their citizenship. You want to know Sneha, who resigned on the Nehru-Liaquat Pact, who said it was unholy? Shama Prasad Mukherjee. When the Nehru-Liaquat Pact happened, Prasad Mukherjee said, why are you allowing these refugees to come in? He resigned against the Nehru-Liaquat Pact. Today, the BJP is upholding the Nehru-Liaquat Pact. For 10 years, they didn't give them citizenship. Now, when they would have got citizenship by law,
Mahaur?
next year, they'll come up with this.
Pradeep Mahaur, please respond.
Look, first of all, he's agreeing that it is not going to affect any of the citizens of India, who are already the citizens, right? And second, he's saying that there has to be, it should not be converted into a Hindu-Muslim issue. Correct, agreed. Now, if they are saying that BJP is going to be benefited by converting it into a Hindu-Muslim Hindu-Muslim issue, then why are the opposition shouting on it? They should remain quiet, because if it is not going to affect at all, as per him, 2014, everybody would have got the citizenship. It does not affect anybody. So it's a fair situation. You should be quiet. They are going into the court. They are shouting everywhere. And still they are saying that it is not going to benefit anybody. What rubbish is this? They are just trying to convince people that something is wrong. This is the problem. Here, opposition does not have any logic. If they sit for an hour, they will not be able to prove any single negative point in Citizenship Amendment Act. But what they are doing is, they are just trying to put forward some illogical things and trying to say that this is something wrong that is happening. If you are so agreed that nothing wrong is happening, why are you shouting? Stay quiet. If nothing wrong has happened, it's as simple. As far as the court is concerned, you have got the resort, go to the court. Court will see what happens. Why are you announcing the court judgment here itself? You're saying that it will be like abolished in the court. How? If it happens at all,
okay,
go to the court.
I'll come to
court
you.
Is there for everybody.
Right.
It's your right.
They have gone to the court. But Kapil Madan, CAA, and then you have UCC. Uttarakhand has just 5 seats. What are we talking about?
So I will just say that this is only an exercise in futility. This is only an exercise where they want to create a narrative. It is only an exercise where they want to talk about polarization, because they don't want people to talk about the real issues. They don't want to the people should be talking about the state of employment, the state of how the state of priorities in the country. They don't want to talk about the real issues. So that's the reason why you have this situation. And look at the timing of this CCAA rules. I have no doubts in my mind when the Supreme Court came down heavily on the government when they rejected the SBI's extension plea. And evening you have CAA rules. I mean, it's bizarre. So that means they were completely prepared with the CAA rules, but they chose a particular date to do that. And let me give you another example. It's the way the audacity of the government is reflected from the point on a day they go to the Supreme Court and they seek time to furnish report. The Supreme Court comes down very heavily, and the next day they give the data. It's bizarre. It's completely bizarre to me. It looks
Okay.
like
Okay. Tushar, before I come to you, allow me, please indulge me here, Tushar. I'm going to take a question on UCC to Tehseen because I want to then come to you and give you a little longer time. Tehseen, UCC in Uttarakhand, pegged in, mooted in, reinstated repeatedly by none other than top leaders of BJP, including Prime Minister Modi. Uttarakhand, of course, is just having 5 seats to Lok Sabha, but it is a BJP state. This is also something that comes in the concurrent list. Say whatever you want to. When the UCC was implemented in Uttarakhand, you did not have strong opposition voices. So if you are claiming that the BJP is managing to polarize votes, is this visible that they even managing to polarize the opposition? Polarize may not be the right word, but at least divide the opposition. Look at the silence that was around UCC from some of the strongest political parties otherwise.
Because the opposition saw through the BJP gimmick, so did the people of India. And the UCC in Uttarakhand will not reap them any political benefits. Though they're going to go about tom-tomming it, it won't reap them any political benefits. For one, if they had to bring in UCC, it should have been brought in all across India. But hey, in India, there already exists the UCC. From Jammu and Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Gujarat to Nagaland, there is the Special Marriage Act under which I got married, under which marriage, divorce and maintenance is similar for all Indian citizens. 2, the UCC that they envisage across the country does not involve the northeastern areas. Even in Uttarakhand, you've left tribals out. So it's not UCC. It is Uttarakhand Civil Code, which leaves out tribals. It's not a common civil code at all. Third, I think what is draconian and will be struck down very soon is this registering live-in relationships. DAV under the DVA Act, anyways, if you were in a live-in relationship and there was violence or there was a woman who got pregnant, there was maintenance for her. But the fact that you have to live in, register it, the government is in your bedroom, actually on your bed, is extremely scary, and the courts, I'm sure, will strike that down. So that is
But I'm
anyways
surprised
going to
no
strike
political
down.
party
But
thought of reaching out to the court.
You think, but because you'll have to go because the rules just got notified yesterday, and somebody who's a victim who's living in, who's now sent to jail, will have the locus to approach the court. So that will get struck down when some of them will come in. Because there is no data protection, the government, by realizing who's living in with who, will give it to vigilante groups and their life will be in threat, or the government will be in your bedroom putting people in jail. So all of this is going to be struck down. But UCC, the opposition saw through it. One last thing. Do you know, Sneha, in Goa, if a Hindu man above the age of 30 does not have a male
30
child,
seconds,
he can remarry
I have
the
to go
second
to Tushar
time.
Gupta.
Just 10 seconds more. Do you know in Gujarat there is something called Maitri Karar, where a Hindu man can officially have a girlfriend? If you want to bring in UCC, why don't you strike this down? Why don't you say all this will go? They won't talk about it. The Goa chief minister speaking to Times now said this act of a Hindu man getting a second wife, if he doesn't have a girl child, does not need to go.
Okay. Tushar Gupta, respond please.
So firstly, addressing the previous question on CA, just one point. I hope Kapil, Madan and Tehseen, that the party they represent, the Congress, won't be against the resolution that was passed by the Congress on November 25th, 1947, where the Congress party said that we need to grant citizenship to non-Muslims from Pakistan who may escape to India to save their honor and dignity. So I hope that addresses the question of what Tehseen and Kapil define as extremists. Now, the question of UCC, look, this is a Uttarakhand-specific UCC. It was announced before the state assembly elections. Now, if Tehseen says the opposition saw through it, the people saw through it, what about the drubbing that the Congress got in Uttarakhand? This promise was made a month before the state assembly elections happened in 2022. The Congress did not take their concerns to the people. The people actually did not care for the kind of noise Congress was making. That's the truth. Now, if you're talking about specific clauses of the UCC, of course, the courts have all the right to take a look. Of course, the governments have all the right to tweak it, and there would be some feedback because, again, this isn't Uttarakhand specific. But what I understand from Tehseen's criticism of certain acts in Gujarat, I think he's requesting for a pan-India UCC, it appears, or a pan-Gujarat UCC. However, again, UCC is a work in progress. There would be tweaks, there would be clauses that might appear problematic in the beginning that the courts may want to look at, that the governments may want to relook at. There's no harm about it. But to say everything is draconian, everything will be struck down by the court, I mean, they went on the same narrative on 370 also, and they had to have eggs in their faces. So that's all I can say.
Right. One of the challenges before any election, and particularly the election that India is going to be able to see not just issues that matter to people, but also constitutionally through a lot of factors that are coming up, including promises that are being made politically. What once used to be a means to reach out to the vote bank with promises, whether it be to women or traditionally to different genders, that still remains. But Tehseen, last question to you, because just to respond to what Tushar is saying, have the dynamics now been changed? Are we seeing a stark change when compared to elections that have happened before, considering the big promise and challenge that BJP is putting, 400 plus?
Yeah, they may want to put 400 plus, and they are going to do everything to try and get to 370, 360 plus individually for the BJP. So you have election commissioners resigning. You have first time you don't have election commissioners as we go close to the election. I don't know how they will take charge. You have laws being brought in to help a political party win. Laws must be brought in to help a country develop, must be brought in to help a country go forward. Laws can't be brought in to help a political party win elections. That I think is scary, and as the democracy we should question. Is that how laws should be brought in? Especially throwing opposition out in parliament, as we've seen recently.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, all four of you, for joining us. Pradeep Mahaur, Tushar Gupta, Tehseen Poonawalla, as well as Kapil Madan. These are interesting times and tough political competition ahead of the elections. Thank you very much. Well, that's all we have for you in Beyond the Headlines. Thank you for watching.